Tyler.
Glennda.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So you had no idea we were going to do this.
Yeah, and it's our very first conversation ever. I'm so excited to meet you.
I sent you a text message and said, "Hey, look, would like to interview you for Glennda's Gurus." And Glennda's Guru is a section in my new newsletter. Every week we have a different person that's a guru. And today or this week, our episode shouldn't say our episode because that makes it sound like television. I guess in this edition of Glenda's Gazette, I should say, we're talking about the high life, which I thought was kind of appropriate to talk to you because look at that fancy apartment. You are living the high life.
I do live a nice life. I do think instead of calling it Glenda's Gazette and Glenda's Gurus, it should just be Glenda's Gorgeous because you look amazing.
You are too sweet. Thank you. I just stepped off of a plane in Dallas, Texas. So I am feeling a little traveled, but you know me, I'm always a little sparkly. So my glitter travels well.
It does. It does. You look like a star.
Thank you. So Tyler, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. And let's kind of start with, this episode is all about like high priced properties and, living the high life. So what was the first like expensive property that you sold?
I mean, there's two that kind of come to mind. The first one was a huge deal for me because it wasn't just an expensive apartment, and we listed it for 7.5 million. But I also want to say that every most expensive listing I got was a huge deal to me. Like the first time I got a $3 million listing, which is, a pretty like common price point in New York. It's not like if you get a $3 million listing, it doesn't put you on the map. But I remember the first time I got a $3 million listing, I was like, holy shit, I have a $3 million listing, But my first one that felt like a really like crazy, like career starter kind of sale was when I listed Bobby Flay's apartment. And that was 7.5 million. And I remember when I found out I was getting the introduction and like going to his office to meet him, just being like, what is my life? And also being terrified and being like, he's not going to give me this listing. There's not a chance in hell I get this listing. But I got the listing.
That's amazing. And how long did it take you to sell it?
Well, it was interesting. It had been on the market previously with one of the most successful agents in New York City, somebody who I really admire. And so I was like, they ain't gonna go from that to this. So it had been on the market for like a year before us, and then we had it for like 6 months. It's an amazing apartment. It's in a challenging location. So everybody who saw it loved the apartment, but it was hard to get somebody with that kind of budget to live on the block that it was on. So it had its challenges for sure. It wasn't just like a list it, sell it, be done.
Well, they're not all, easy peasy lemon squeezy. So let me ask you, Tyler, what's the most expensive like sale you've ever had?
The most expensive sale I ever had was representing a buyer on a $39.5 million apartment. And that one was real crazy. That one was insane because it was a good lesson in real estate because we think that like we know all of our big sales that are going to happen, and I talk to my team about this all the time of like, you don't know the next phone call that you're going to get, the next lead you're going to have. You don't know where that next connection is going to come from. And this was a client that I was working with on one of their investment properties, and it was it was more of my wheelhouse. It was like a $4 million listing, and I had just gotten accepted offer on it, and that client called me at like 6 or 7 a.m. and I was like, oh, there must be a problem.
Right.
And I answered, and they were hysterical on the phone because their personal home had just flooded and they needed to get out, and they were in a time when the interest rates were really low and buying a trophy property was more affordable than it had ever been. And she was like, I want a beautiful apartment. She was like, take me out and show me beautiful apartments. Gave me her budget, gave me her list. We went out and looked at 4 apartments and she picked one. And I'm always
No way.
and I'm just like, 2 days ago, I had no idea that this person was even going to be in the market. You know what I mean? And it was like, I mean, and this is the kind of person that we love. They're decisive. They go in,
Yeah.
if they love it, they're doing it. And that was exactly what happened. I remember we walked into the living room, and originally they didn't want to see this apartment because they're like, it's on too high of a floor. I don't want to live on that high, but it's on the 78th floor. And then I was like, well, I kind of want to see it. I was like, it looks amazing. And she was like, okay, let's go see it. And we like walked into the living room, and she's very stoic and is just kind of like, and we walk into the kitchen, and the other agent is like showing it to us, and the agent walks out and she looks over at me and she just mouths, she goes, I'm buying this. And I remember I was like, we've only seen a fraction of the apartment. We've seen 2 rooms. It's a 7,000 square foot apartment. And and of course, like, my stomach turns in the good way, because I was like, am I about to sell a $40 million apartment? And I did. And it
That
changed
is
my life. It
amazing.
changed my life.
Oh, Tyler, that is so awesome. I love that story.
Hmm.
So, what are you working on right now? I know you're always busy doing stuff. You've just gotten back to kind of, your roots with the city and going back and forth to your favorite place, Sag Harbor. So, tell me, what are you excited about?
Well, I am about to list the most expensive thing I've ever listed, which is a $27.5 million apartment that was referred to me by an agent on the West Coast of the agency where I work. So we love those agent to agent referrals.
Yeah.
And I've had some nice trophy listings, but this will be the first one that I've had at this price point. I've had lots of stuff in like the 10, 15 million range. So it's really exciting to be able to sink my teeth into marketing something at that price point. So I'm super excited about getting started on that. It's being staged right now. And then, on the business side, I have an accepted offer on an office space for my Hamptons franchise of the agency. And I don't want to jinx it yet because they still have to send us leases and everything is getting multiple offers, but it feels like the right space for us. And it just like, now things are getting very, very real. I've signed all the paperwork. I've like sent things over. I'm hemorrhaging money, and but I'm excited to do like this next level of my business for sure.
That's amazing. I'm so excited for you. And I hope you will invite me to the grand opening of your Hamptons
Yeah,
office.
you better be there.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't miss it for the world. So I'm all excited about that. And so I'm going to ask you, like, this is going to be our staple question for Glennda's Guru. And that is, if you could look back to when you started your career, what do you wish that you knew?
I wish I had gotten out of my way more often. And I meet so many agents, like, we live inside of our heads. We're always freaking out about like hypothetical situations. I'm sure you get this all the time too. People are like, oh, I would love to do videos like yours, but that's just, my clientele just won't like it. I'm like, what's your clientele? I'm like, my clientele is, I promise I have just as wealthy of a clientele as you. And they love funny people who do interesting new things. Like, I actually think they love interesting more than they love anything else. And so be interesting. And the amount of times I just didn't step up to the plate for an opportunity because I didn't think I was there yet. I was like, I'm just like not there in my career yet, so I'm probably not the right person for this. And the only thing that really changed was I started stepping up to the plate. And that's the only way. People are like, how do you get your first big listing? I'm like, the same way you get all your listings, showing up and doing your best.
Yeah, absolutely. You for sure miss the shots you never ever take.
That's almost the quote.
What is the quote? Tyler, you're so good at the quotes. I couldn't define it.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It's a Wayne Gretzky post.
Okay,
Quote.
just so you know,
Uh-huh.
like it's the Glennda Gazette. It's my show. I can have whatever I want saying, right?
Well, I know. I'm just like, why are you going to paraphrase a very famous quote? That's like saying, to I'm gonna be or I'm not gonna be instead of to be or not to be.
Okay, I don't think it was like that big of a quote, but okay, you're the guest. I'm gonna let you be right. Like just like you wanted to be right on the seating chart. And then you had your friend send me a message and say, oh, actually, Tyler was right because after he went to the restroom, he came back and reseated himself.
No, you receded. So
Whatever.
I'm right again. And just so you know, I did not put her up to that. She took it upon herself because I felt like I was very gracious in that fight. I bowed out quickly. I was like, okay, I was like, maybe I'm wrong, but I wasn't.
You were wrong, but we won't even go into that.
It sounds like we are.
Thank you. We are not. Tyler, thank you so much. Thank you for being my second guest.
Second?
Yes.
Oh, that was not in the writer. That was not in the writer. Who was first?
Josh Flagg. He was. It was all about your first time, and I didn't think that you wanted to tell us about your first time.
I have to go.
You do have to go.
I have to. All of a sudden, my phone is very blowy uppy.